Gracious God, creator of the universe, and yet the lover of my soul. Alpha and Omega, and yet I can call you friend. I don't have to beg you for anything, but I can thank you for everything. God, I thank you because this is the day that you have made, and I can rejoice and be glad in it. Thank you for this day of magnificence and glory and splendor. God, I thank you for life, health, and for strength. I thank you for soundness of mind. I thank you for peace, love, and joy. I thank you for the essence of you that envelops me right now, from the crown of my head to the soles of my feet. We thank you for this day of manifestation. We thank you for the day of revelation. We thank you for the day of impartation. We thank you as you move in the midst of your people to bring us to the greatest times that we've ever seen since the foundation of the world. Thank you, Lord, that for this time and for this season, you've allowed us to be a part of your move in the face of the earth. I thank you, God, for the revolution that you're bringing forth, God, even in the midst of the earth right now. And I thank you for the opportunity to be a part of what you're doing in this hour, because in the last days, saith God, you said you would pour out your spirit on all flesh. And so now we thank you for the pouring out. God, I thank you for the rain and the move of your spirit. I thank you for fresh oil. I thank you for new wine. I thank you for the new thing that you're doing. I thank you now that it does spring forth. I thank you, Lord, that you've called us to be the head and not the tail. You've called us to be above only and not beneath. You've called us to be the lender and not the borrower. You've called, God, that our storehouses would be full and increase. God, I thank you because even I decree and declare that the people under the sound of my voice, even now, are moving in the might of your strength. Not by might nor by power, but by your spirit. I thank you for those that are the sons and daughters of God that are called because they walk not after the flesh, but after your spirit. I thank you for the rising up of the people of your kingdom. I thank you that your kingdom come. I thank you that your will be done, even now in earth as it is in heaven. I thank you, Lord, because you are moving in the midst of your people mightily as never before. Raise us up, oh God, to the standard of what you've called us to be. God, I thank you for the standard of greatness. I thank you for the standard of holiness. I thank you for the standard of moving as the sons and daughters of yours, and not as vagabonds, not as those that never knew you, not as those that are confused and confounded, but God, those that know who they are in you. I thank you for the knowing. I thank you, God, for knowing you. I thank you for knowing your presence. Thank you for knowing your Holy Ghost power that gives us the ability to be successful. Your anointing that gives us the power to rise up and be called blessed. Thank you for that is in us. Thank you, God, for all things that pertain to life and godliness. Thank you because we are not confused. We are not deceived. And we thank you for that clarity of mind and the clarity of vision that allows us to walk forth as kings and queens, as princes and princesses in the kingdom that walk in the earth. We thank you that we are your beloved, and we rise up as the apple of your eye. We rise up, oh God, as those that you love with all of your heart. And God, we love you back. I thank you for soundness of mind. I thank you for soundness of spirit. I thank you that healing is our bread. Healing is our deliverance. By the stripes of Jesus, we're already healed. And we speak forth that healing even now for those that need it. Thank you, God, for every stripe that was taken. Thank you for the bruising. Thank you that he was wounded for our transgressions, bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him. God, with those same stripes we declare and we speak healing in Jesus' name. We give you glory. We give you peace. We give you honor. We give you blessing. We give you might. We ascribe all of these things unto you because they are yours. Thank you. The fruit of my lips giving thanks unto your name, ever giving you all that is yours. Glory, honor, power, dominion, majesty. It's yours. I decree it and I speak it. In the mighty name of Jesus, it is so. Amen and amen.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Oh my goodness, this is your spiritual thought leader, Regina L. Stillman, and this is Yes You, O Cubed, one-on-one, just me and you. I'm so glad you got up to be with me on this morning. Today is Wednesday, February the 24th in the year 2021. And I'm so glad that you are here with me on this fine day. I want to say that the winner of Grandpa Holmes's chair that got up bright and early before I even got this podcast launched on today is Anita Harvey. Put those hands together in the chat. And the crowd goes round. Congratulations to Anita Harvey for being the winner of Grandpa Holmes's chair. And I want to thank you for coming in so early, Anita. You are all that in a bag of chips. I appreciate you this morning. Well, I want to say good morning to Anita Harvey. I want to say good morning to Mel Holiday. Mel, you my girl. I want to say good morning to Nay-Ray 1205, to Monica L. Smith. Come on, that's my baby. Nobody puts baby in the corner. The Rebel Inc. I appreciate you for coming on up in the house on this morning. And BTD Mom, I'm so happy for every last one of you in my chat on today. I always like to come and have this conversation with you guys in the morning because it gets my day started right. You know how it is. We get our cups out and we drink coffee. No cream, no sugar, because we take our coffee black, because I tell it like it Tiz. Oh, yes, I do. So I'm glad to be here with you on this morning. Many of you know I'm in LA on just a little bit of R&R, much needed and much appreciated. And I'm glad to be here. So y'all know it is 5:09 in the morning. Yes, it's 5 o'clock in the morning here in LA, but I'm glad to be with you. I was awake. Y'all know, anybody knows me knows that I'm an early bird. And so this is just perfect for me. But you all are 2 hours behind me, and wherever you are on the globe, because we've had them coming in from Australia, we've had them coming in from Canada, we've had folks coming in off the East Coast, West Coast, and wherever you are, good morning, good morning, good morning, and may you have sunshine and a grand rising on this fine day. Well, as you know, I'm not in my studio, so we're kind of missing some of the sound effects and some of the other things that I typically have in our broadcast, but that's okay. You're here, and that's what's important. And we're just going to have this conversation. I do miss that. Don't y'all miss the music? I miss King Coogee got us hooked up with that music, and I'm spoiled. I'm real spoiled. I'm used to that music playing while I talk. I want to say I appreciate everybody that has sponsored. And as I'm coming up the algorithm, I'm asking you all, those that would, please share this podcast. Please like it wherever you are, whether you're in Facebook, whether you're in Twitch, whether you're in YouTube, wherever you are, Patreon, wherever you might be. I'd appreciate it if you would share so that we can climb that algorithm ladder and get out to there to more people in this broadcast medium. Now, that being said, I appreciate, please don't forget to host the channel. Thank you so much, Rebel. Please don't forget to host the channel for those of you that can and will. Now, as the Rebel Inc. has come in and said that, I want you to check out my corporate sponsor, the Rebel Inc. She is always in support of what we're doing. Had a hot live broadcast on yesterday that was off the chains. Y'all did everything on that bus. I don't know what's going to happen Thursday up on in Rebel's house, but nonetheless, I love the Rebel. And check out this link, therebelinc.com. Yes, the rebelinc.com. Go out there and, as Monica says, get you some. I tell you what, if that didn't wake you up, I don't know what will, because I had my little headphones in and I was sitting and all of a sudden, oh, I said, oh my goodness. Woke me right up. Whatever sleep was in me, it came on out. Everything in you got to come out. Well, this morning, while we slumbered, slept, and slobbered, did it get you too, Rebel Inc? That volume snatched you right on into the land of being woke. While we slumbered, slept, and slobbered, let me get on my P's and Q's and get started chatting with you on this morning. So many things that happened that I want to talk about this morning. But particularly, I want to start in Black History Month with some Black top stories on today. Now, first one I want to discuss: while we slumbered, slept, and slobbered, Ahmaud Arbery's mother filed a civil suit on yesterday on the 1 year anniversary of her son's lynching by those three white men down there in Georgia. Georgia, what's going on down there in Georgia? Now, the interesting thing about this is that a lot of people did not know anything about Ahmaud Arbery until several months after the fact, because after we saw some other highlighted stories of abuse towards Black people, right on up to George Floyd, this story was relatively quiet. And I don't went on back, these men walked around free for several months, having had some association and affiliation to law enforcement, police department. Uh, these men were relatively uh, untouched. There was no plan of action, no course of action that seemingly was going to happen. The one brother that recorded it, that obviously didn't have all his faculties by sharing the recording. And this is something that we have to be mindful of in this new day of lynching, is that while my mind says, why on earth would you put this video up on the internet for people to see? Because this is going to be your undoing. But understanding that in these days and times of lynching, the same way they always wanted to have a mob with them to bear witness to what they had done, the internet, unfortunately, has become our new way of bearing witness. Even though I think for somebody that's going to commit a crime, I think it's one of the stupidest things you could do. But this brother posts up and passes around and shares this video of them lynching this baby. And at the end of the day, we have to deal with the realities that exist, that the camera has become one of the best friends, and has been even all the way back to the civil rights movement in the 50s and the 60s. A lot didn't happen until you got some traction and some publicity, and especially when you had something visual that people could see, it tended to be the factor that got people talking about your cause and your issue. When they saw them spray hosing and beating little kids on the national news, then what was going on down in the South became galvanized, and people began to get very, very involved and emotionally attached to the movement and the need for change. So cameras have become one of our best friends for the Black community. And even with the camera, that still doesn't mean anything, because then we have Daniel Prude, who his killers, the police department, went untouched on yesterday. So you have all of these dynamics that continue to go on, and the struggle is real, and the struggle continues. Now, if you remember Daniel Prude, listen, is racists are incumbent. Come on, come on. Proud Boys don't interpret this dastardly deeds as crime. I understand. And so they're posting up and they're sharing it to them as almost like, I have a feather in my cap. Look and see what I did. And it's dastardly, just absolutely dastardly. And yet and still, we still have to deal with the reality of, like Daniel Prude. Again, I'm gonna go back to him, and our prayers go out to Ahmaud Arbery's mother, filing that civil suit on yesterday. Hopefully she will get some traction there. because we can't seem to get it in the regular courts, in the criminal courts. But a civil action is altogether in order. And so I applaud her. I appreciate her. Our prayers go out for her, because I know that the gaping hole that's left in her heart cannot be soothed by any dollar amount. Nothing can bring her child back to her. And she's going to have to live and suffer this until she draws her last breath. But hopefully, that $1 million lawsuit in the civil courts will at least bring some level of accountability to these men who continue to walk around free as if nothing has happened. Now, again, Daniel Prude brings up the issue of mental health and the police department, because this was a brother in a mental health crisis. And so many things about that situation went wrong. Number one, just the fact of the way that they dealt with this brother who was in an obvious mental health crisis. And a mental illness is not a crime. And the brother was not committing, he was not in the process of committing a crime at the time that they apprehended him. But his family had called for some help, but help did not mean kill our family member and our loved ones. And they immediately arrive on the scene and begin their acts of aggression. And even to the point when they told the paramedics when they got there, instead of them assessing the patient as they should have done, they just immediately started giving him ketamine because they were talking about excited utterance and needing to calm this brother down. I knew you meant incompetent male. Thank you for that. I want us to understand that there are so many levels of work that we have yet to do. And I'm calling all of us in this platform, on this platform, to take the time, the energy, and the effort to conscientiously go out here and let's start making a change. It's time for us to make that change. We got to look at, if the brother was in a mental health crisis, and we talked about it while it was going on last year. If the brother was in a mental health crisis, we need some mental health interventionists that know how to show up on the scene. And instead of the police, who seemingly are void of how to deal with these types of situations and individuals, get somebody out there trained and professional who knows what they're doing. Because a mental health crisis should not end in death, particularly if you're not in the process of committing a crime and or hurting yourself or others. So unfortunately, all of those in the Daniel Prude case were let free, let off the hook on yesterday. So these are all things that, as we woke this morning and began to read what happened while we slumbered, slept, and slobbered, our hearts go out to, again, all of those family members that have been impacted by these tragic losses that continue to happen to people of color. Now, the other story I pulled out about Black folk for Black history, because I'm sure this has to make some kind of history. In the state of Oklahoma, where the wind comes sweeping down the plain, or wherever it's sweeping, this brother that was on parole from the prison system, it was reported to me, this brother got out and was staying with a lady, her child, and his uncle, and he proceeded to kill her, cut out her heart, cook it with some potatoes, and serve it to the daughter and the uncle to purge them of demons before killing them. Did you hear what I said? The man, 42 years old. Yes, BTD mom. Yes, Rebel Inc. The man, 42 years old, was staying with a 41-year-old woman on probation when he got out of jail. And listen, y'all taking these folks in that you don't know. I don't know. I don't know if she knew him or not. But listen, you need to pay attention. You need to pay attention. This brother killed the woman, 41 years old. He's 42. Cut her heart out and cooked it with potatoes and served it, talking about he had to purge the demons out of the others, and then he killed them. So at the end of the day, good morning, dog legs. At the end of the day, I'm like, look, what in all heaven and earth are we doing? I know that something is obviously wrong with this brother, but then the senseless loss of 3 more people. And I have to wonder, was there any way under the sun to tell that this brother was not right in the head? Because at the end of the day, heart and potatoes, heart, human heart and potatoes was the meal of the day. And I'm sitting there thinking and wondering, when the daughter and the uncle observed this, I just can't even fathom it. My brain had a hard time as I read that story, and I looked at the man. The man looked pure D crazy. You hear what I'm saying? The man looked pure D crazy. I was like, oh my God. So as we come into this day and time of looking at that, to me is going to be a historical moment, because at the end of the day, I don't know, could it be the devil? That was nothing but that old slimy devil. Because at the end of the day, this joker had to be all the way off his rocker. And I'm sitting and I'm looking, and I'm going to be really, really honest. I'm not playing when I say one of the, honey, it wasn't nothing but that old slimy devil, Monica. And that was nothing but that old slimy devil, full of slime, full of insanity. I looked at that crazy looking man and I thought, ma'am, you got to be careful who you bring up in your household, because everybody ain't playing with the full deck. And listen, uncle, I know this might have been your nephew, but nephew needs to go to a mental institution. Sometimes we got to be sensitive as to where to draw our line of helping folk, because sometimes those same folks that you are trying to help, baby, BTD mom, put the devil up there, because it wasn't nothing but that old slimy devil. You got to know who you are helping. And listen, there are times when we want to, because there's something about the humanity in us. It's something about the compassion in us that makes us want to help people, dog legs. But at the end of the day, some folks, they need more help than what we have to give. They need more help than what we have to. Listen, I'm not going to lie. I've had times in my life where I bit off more than what I could chew, thinking I could help some folk. But there are some folk that need professional help. I don't care. You can't love it out. You can't pray it out. You can't friend it out. Baby, there's some folk you need to let them be and let the peoples come and get them. Because at the end of the day, while you're trying to help them, you going to listen, you trying to sleep at night, and some of y'all have had folks in your house you really couldn't close your eyes and sleep with them. I'm talking about folks you were trying to help because you didn't know if they were going to go off their rocker and if you were going to be heart and potatoes in the morning. Listen, folks, love the people, but know your limits. Know your limitations and how far you can go. And there are some people, they need medication, they need counseling, they need therapy. You're not a therapist, you're not a doctor. And even in the midst of trying to be there, sometimes you got to break it on down and acknowledge that, baby, you need help that's beyond my ability. So listen, my heart, that story just tore me up this morning, brought tears to my eyes, because here you have this small little child, this little bitty baby, and at the end of the day, mama, baby, and uncle are out of here. And cannibalism, that whole element of whatever was in his mind that told him this is how we're gonna get the devil out. Oh my God. So I wanted to choose these three stories to highlight Aubrey because he still deserves justice, and his mother. And these two mental health situations with Black brothers. And listen, to our Black community, we might as well call a spade a spade. Some of these situations of mental illness have been present since childhood. And why, oh, why we still refuse to get mental help. This is something in the Black community that has got, it's heartbreaking, BTD mom. It's heartbreaking. We've got to stop this stigma in the Black community that counseling and therapy is for weak people. Even in our Black churches, God is a mind regulator. And if you go to get professional help, like you're doing something wrong, when you can fast and you can pray and you can call on the elders of the church and let them grease you up like a piece of chicken. Mental illness is mental illness. It's not anything to be ashamed of, because it's just like somebody that's got diabetes, heart disease, or some other kind of illness. It's an illness of the mind, and it is not anything that we, baby, Royal Confessions, he had a gleam in his eye. And listen, yeah, I think she thought it was for her, but her heart with potatoes, unfortunately. And if you go, y'all, when y'all see that picture, y'all gonna know I'm not lying. That man looked crazy. He looked crazy. And that's why I said, listen, it's something that I'm telling people. You can I let you in on a secret? This is almost like a level of discernment. If their eyes look crazy, leave them alone. If their eyes look empty, leave them alone. If their eyes look wild, leave them alone. If their eyes look high, leave them alone. If their eyes, one eye is going east and the other eye is going west, leave them alone. I'm trying to tell you, there's so much that you can tell. Check them eyeballs. Check them eyeballs. Those eyeballs will tell you not home. And listen, you can tell, because sometimes they'd be like totally at themselves. But then all of a sudden you can tell when it's like click, because them eyes, the eyes, y'all hear what I'm your spiritual, the eyes, that's it, BTD mom. Put all them eyes, the eyes have it. The eyes have it. I need you to start looking at these jokers' eyes, because some of these jokers' eyes are telling you point blank blunt, I'm crazy. I'm not here. I'm home alone. I'm gone. I have departed long since. I'm telling y'all get into these situations. I'm telling you, and sometimes all you need is one good look at them eyeballs, because that brother's eyes look crazy. And yes, as Royal Confession said, she thought them eyes was for her, but unfortunately, and it's really not funny, but I'm telling you, it was for her heart, for her little girl, and for that man. So the eyes are the heart of the soul, Mel, all day long. It is the gateway to seeing straight through. And I'm telling you, when you all are dealing with people, and I'll be even in as I go from place to place, and people come up to me and start talking, and them eyes get to dancing all around. And oh, God sent me to you, baby, 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 baby. Your eyes are telling me no. Your eyes are telling me you are full of the devil. Ain't nothing but that old slimy devil. And I'm telling you, I don't care how nice, how sweet, how many gifts they send you, and how they make you feel. Them eyes are going to click off at one time or another, and I need you to pay attention. And all you need is one click, one good click of the eyes, and that should be enough to tell you, leave it alone. So as we come into this place, and even as Doglet said, it's a real kept secret that we need to get active in mental health issues. If your child has a problem, let your child get some. Don't wait till they teenagers and it's exasperated and it's blown up 10 times what it could have been. If you could have stopped and got them some help early on, and listen, if it's a chemical imbalance, I know that we even teach against the medication, but some of these kids need medication. Not everybody. I'm not saying I feel like we are a medicated society, but I also understand that some types of mental illnesses are actually chemical imbalances in the body. And if they can recalibrate that chemistry in the body, take your meds. That's all I'm gonna say about that. But I preached a whole sermon right there. Spiritual thought leader gave you a whole lot of spiritual thought right there. Uh, get some help, get some counseling, get some therapy, and check out the eyes. Now, as I move from there, while we slumbered, slept, and slobbered, we have to normalize mental health. I'm with you, Monica, because we have such a stigma associated with it. It's always negative. It's almost, even if you're going to counseling, and I've been, if you're going to counseling, if you're going to therapy, you don't want people to know. You don't want to talk about it, because we still have this terrible, terrible stigma that surrounds mental health. And in actuality, can I tell you what? One of the biggest things I see as a minister in the church, in my prayer line, is mental illness. Oh, yeah, we call it a whole lot of things. It manifests in a whole lot of ways. But I promise you that 9 times out of 10, the majority of the people that I see have some level of mental illness that they're struggling with. And rather than to get it treated appropriately, which also includes, listen to me when I say this, it also includes some of your physical ailments are actually a manifestation of what's going on with you mentally. There, I said it. I told the truth. Come on, get your coffee cups. Get your coffee cups, because y'all know how it is. No cream, no sugar. We take our coffee black, because I'm telling it like it Tiz. Tis. At the end of the day, a lot of these physical illnesses that are going on in our body are precipitated by stress and by mental illness. Get that coffee cup out. Get that coffee cup out and take a sip, because I'm preaching real hard today. I'm preaching real hard because I'm telling you truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. I'm going to say this, and some folks ain't ready for this, but you can even tell how people are, even when we get into this whole churchy realm. And I know everybody that listens to my podcast is not churchy, and this is not designed. I preach on Sunday afternoons at 2 o'clock. You can tune into that. But my other podcasts are to give you food for thought and to make you think and to have conversation. But I'm going to say this to a lot of churchy people. I can tell what your mental state is many times by even the church songs that y'all play. Because y'all play these songs that are gloom and doom and crying, and it give you a chance to cry because you can't cry any other way. And y'all say it was the spirit moving on you, but it was really the spirit of grief. It was the spirit of depression. And you played just the right song, just like anything else. Music makes you feel. You play just the right song, rhythm and blues in the church, and y'all get tore up and get to snotting and crying, talking about the spirit was moving. It's a whole bunch of depressed people. It's a whole bunch of depressed people, and y'all playing a whole bunch of depressed music. And that depressed music lets you get your tears on. Come on, I'm preaching right now. That depressed music lets you go ahead and snot and cry, just like you would if you was at the club crying over your drink. Y'all doing the same thing at the church because your songs are depressing. Listen, I listen to some of the songs that y'all do, and I just get depressed. And we do not discuss it. All the classes that we have in the church, there's not one of them. And I want us to understand that you can identify. It doesn't take a rocket scientist. Listen, now I'm going to come. Y'all ain't ready for me. I feel something. I felt the turn right there. Come on, dog legs. I'm trying to help y'all. Get your coffee cups out. Get your coffee cups out. Because this coffee is no cream, no sugar. This coffee is strong and black, and I'm telling it like it Tiz. I promise you I am. Because at the end of the day, I look at y'all and I'm like, oh my God, this is the most depressed group of people I've done seen since I don't know when. Just depressed. But we won't talk about depression. Like you said, Dog Lex, ain't a class on depression. We will not have a class on how to deal with your emotions. We will not have a class on mental health. We will not have a class on being emotionally and mentally balanced. We will not have a class on those things. But those are the things that can make a difference between happiness, life, and death in your situation. But no, y'all rather sing it in a song and everybody get to snotting and crying and get in the prayer line. Everybody find a neighbor and tell your neighbor XYZ and tell your neighbor it's gonna be all right. Tell your neighbor this, and y'all it's just one huge pity party. Y'all ain't ready for me. It's just one huge pity party, and we calling it church. But you won't deal with the root. You won't deal with the core. And the core is the people need mental healing. Whew, I just preached a whole nother sermon right there because I know I'm telling the truth. And at the end of the day, can I give you a reality check? A lot of the leaders are depressed themselves. So they can't take you into a place of healing that they have not walked and known themselves. What can I say? Walk around looking like zombies and don't understand why people don't want what you got all day long, BTD mom, all day long. We say we got what you need and we got what the world wants, but y'all are depressed and we don't want it. You've been depressed for the last 20 years and you keep singing them same songs, but ain't nothing changed. Ooh, come on, Dog Lex. I'm just trying to get it out there. I'm just trying to get it out there. I'm just trying to get it out there because I tell it like a TIV. We need to deal with me. And notice this. Notice this. The man that killed the woman and cooked the heart with potatoes, he said he did it because he needed to purge them of demons. So what are you saying? More times than not, people that are mentally ill many times are more religious, even if it's a crazy religious, than anybody on the planet. Because baby, when you get finished, when you get done, I'm trying to tell you, you talking about purging out demons? You talking about purging out spirits? He done picked that up at somebody's church. He done picked that up from somebody's ministry because he didn't get his mental health needs addressed. Something in his crazy mind done told him if you cut somebody's heart out and cook it with some potatoes, you can get rid of the devil. Y'all ain't ready for me this morning. Oh, good thing I'm in Cali because some of y'all would probably beat me down. Did you just throw something at the screen, Monica? Did you just throw something at the screen? I'm telling the truth. I'm telling it like it TIZ. We've got to deal and bring out of the closet the issues of mental health and mental wellness. We can be well, but it must be ministered to. It must be dealt with. It's not going to just go away. You can't pray it away. You can't fast it away. Some of y'all need help. Okay. Well, I didn't know I was going to go all those places this morning. However, as Mother Mac would say, however, I done said it. Said I wasn't going to tell nobody, but I couldn't keep it to myself. Yes, this is yes, you. Oh, cute. One-on-one, just me and you. Yes, you did, Monica. You just threw something at the screen because you know I'm telling the truth. We taking this coffee, no cream, no sugar. I'm telling it like it TIZ. We're drinking this coffee strong and black. Because I got to tell you like it is. I can't pussyfoot around with it no more because folks are taking people's heart, cutting it out, boiling it with potatoes, thinking they driving out demons. Lord Jesus. Lord, 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 Lord. And we keep getting in them prayer lines with them same sick folk instead of sending them to the doctor. Did I say something? Did I say something? And I'm going to say this one more time as I close out. You all pay attention to who you're bringing up in your house and bringing all up in your space, and especially if you have children. Pay attention because some of the folks that you are trying to help, you cannot help them. They need mental and professional help. All right. Ooh, ooh, glory. Ooh, field goal. And it's good. Now, as we move on through this barren land, Lord Jesus, guide me, oh, thou great Jehovah. Ooh, we pilgriming through this barren land. Now, as we go into even more barren land, it was a blessing that New York has determined they will not allow Trump, your past president, to get away with not disclosing his taxes. Now, I still want to say it's a day late and a dollar short, y'all. Don't allow everybody to lay hands on you, BTD mom, because laying the hands is how your heart gets in a pot of potatoes. He laid hands on her, and then in her heart, her whole heart ended up in a pot of potatoes. Now, as we look at 4 years of this man, I feel like it's a day late and a dollar short, but at least the court's on yesterday. While we slumbered, slept, and slobbered, on yesterday, the court said, no, sir, you got to produce some taxes. New York is after that joker. Do you hear me? New York is after him. Woo! You know, I don't have my sound effects because I'm not in my studio, but I would. Applause, 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 all of that. Because this man needs to be held accountable. Now, when he was running in 2014, 2015, oh yeah, I'll release my taxes. Then when he became the front runner of the GOP, then it was, we're going to apply New York all day long. Get them hand claps in there. Get those hand claps in there. Because New York and that black AG, she ain't playing. She's like, you going down. You going down. So at the end of the day, I am grateful that they have finally said, now have y'all wondered, well, praise God, come on here, doglegs. Have y'all wondered why this man does not want to get his taxes reviewed? Number one, let's start with the fact that he didn't pay any for many, many, many years. Can we start there? All the way back to 1995, when he claimed a $900 million loss that precluded him from having to pay taxes for years and years and years and years and years in advance. Now, some of y'all wonder why some of these businesses play this game of they going in the hole, and they want to stay in the hole because they can claim that and make money off of it and all kind of things. We had an incident with the individual that, honey, she wanted her operations to run at a loss because that's how she made her money, was operating at a loss. Well, at the end of the day, this man has claimed not filed taxes. Let's start there. And then number two, so much of his stuff is in debt, the debt load that he has, and he doesn't want to show all of this that he's claiming on his taxes. Now, how can you be rich and poor at the same time? This one man is rich man, poor man. Y'all remember that book and the movie Rich Man, Poor Man? That would be him, because he's all of them at the same time. He's rich on one side of his head, he's poor on the other side, which allows him, the rich side, to get money from banks like Deutsche Bank, from banks like all these other institutions that are giving this crook money, laundering money from the Russians and everything else. The rich side of him allows him to get that, but the poor side of him says, I don't have to pay no taxes because I didn't make no money. He's rich and poor all at the same time. So I'm saying, looky here. Now, why does he still not want? It's all fraud, honey. That's the book, doglegs. It's all fraud, BTD mom, because at the end of the day, when you get down to it, you can't have it both ways, particularly at the same time. Man, you're lying. You're just straight up, flat out lying. Now, he still doesn't want this to come out because whether you realize it or not, this joker plans to run again. And as dastardly as that seems to me, you got enough crazy people in this country that believe that the election was stolen from him, that believe all of these other lies and tales that he's floated out here for these last 4 to 6 years. They believe this man, whatever comes out of his mouth, hook, line, and sinker. God forbid that this man have a chance at the next election cycle to run again. But he doesn't want this information out because it's going to reflect poorly on him. So he really doesn't want it known. Hear me. He really doesn't want it known. So he's fighting every fight that he can. But I think New York gonna get him going straight to jail or somewhere. Yes, BTD mom, it's dastardly, just dastardly. And he continues to have followers that follow him right on down the yellow brick road, right on into the gates of hell. So I'm looking and I'm saying, how many insane Americans do we have in this country? And let me tell you what the insanity is. The insanity is really rooted in what I told y'all on yesterday: white supremacy and racism. You have individuals who do not want to give up the privilege that comes along with being white. And the white supremacists are loving what he's saying. They're loving what he's doing. They're loving everything about him. And there's enough that even if they know this man, I feel some of them know this man is lying. And at the end of the day, I feel like this, you right, Dog Lex, that we follow. At the end of the day, I have to look at us and say, until we rectify this issue of racism, until we rectify this issue of white supremacy and identify and acknowledge that all men, women, boys, and girls are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And every person born into the earth is worthy of that. Every person that's born, particularly in this country, since you said that's what you're giving us, we are worthy of it and we are entitled to it. It's not just for a few, and it's not a privilege just for some. It's for everyone. And until we uproot that demonic thought from the root, and no, we can't do it with hearts and potatoes, until we uproot that concept from the very root, we're going to continue to have problems here in this here United States of America. But there are people that are still rooting for this man, and that's why he doesn't want these taxes to come out, because he doesn't want the truth about his money or lack thereof to be known. And it's my understanding that in 2022, he's got a huge, huge debt that's coming due. And the man, all of this that he's doing, going around telling these folks this and that and the other, he's collecting money for his own personal coffers. You better get that right. And you better know this. It's not for the cause of the people. It's for the cause of Donald J. Trump. So at the end of the day, don't get it twisted. This man ain't doing nothing but fundraising for his coffers, because the man ain't got no money. Now, that being said, and identifying all of the crazy people that are following him, I hail originally from the great state of Kansas, but I'm currently a resident of the great state of Missouri. And that brings me to Josh Hawley. While we slumbered, slept, and slobbered, on yesterday in the hearings, this joker who needs to be put out, this joker who lives in Virginia but got an address in Missouri, this joker that really is a white supremacist. Y'all remember the sign as he was egging on the insurrectionists on January the 6th? This joker had nerve, hear me, on yesterday in the hearings to take the Capitol Police to task as either they were stupid, ignorant, or complicit to the insurrection because their job that they did was so poorly performed. Josh Hawley said, this is laughable. This is laughable. Yes, Rebel. He now, mind you, he was complicit and was one. Okay, let's call a spade a spade. So in the hearing for Donald J. Trump to see if he was a party to the insurrection, Josh Hawley votes no, he was not. Now that's like the getaway driver of bank robbers then being put as one of the jurors of the trial of the bank robbers once they get caught and voting him innocent. But you, sir, were the getaway driver. You were involved just as much as they were. But he got to vote against holding Trump accountable when he was a party to the whole thing himself. Now, what kind of justice is that? But then he wants to turn around and with the nerve of all nerve, you need to have 2 seats. You need to have the whole pew, Josh Hawley. Sit down somewhere. With the nerve of all nerve, you want to say to the Capitol Police that I believe y'all told not to show up. You want to say to them, either you're stupid, you're ignorant, these are his words, or complicit. And I choose to believe that you're complicit. Oh yeah, you're out there giving the white power sign and egging them on as you go into the Capitol building. But then you want to turn around. Hypocrisy at its finest. You want to turn around and say to the police whose lives were in jeopardy and on the line, trying to protect you from an insurrection that you all incited. Yes, Kim, he needs to sit down. He needs to all the seats. He needs all the pews. He needs everything in there. Sit yourself. As I love to say it the way my dear friend Anthony, sat down. I need you to sat down. God rest his soul. I need you to sat down. Kim, it's amazing. This joker, and this is something I want us to pay attention to. The very ones. Good morning, Joel Johnson Cranitos. How is it in Australia, my brother? At the end of the day, this is something that we see repeated by these individuals that are creating and committing these crimes. Then they want to come back and play stupid. They want to come back and lie. They want to come back and try to be disparaging towards others. And they want to come back and insult others. It's so good to see you, Joel. They want to come back and do all of these things as if they're innocent. They want to come back and do all these things and try to make it smell like I'm just a sweet bed of flowery perfume. I am just as innocent as the pure as the driven snow, as we would say. When you know that you are the one that your hands are dirtier than anybody else's. But then to come back and say you're either, these are his words, these 3 words stuck out in my mind. You're stupid, you're ignorant, or you're complicit. I choose to believe that you're complicit. Sit down, Josh Hawley. And I just want to say to Missourians, if y'all vote this joker back in here again next year or whenever he's running, next term, that's what I want to say. If y'all vote this man back in here, I just want to have your heads examined. What is really, well, I already know what it is, racism, because that's all this man has propagated the whole time he's been in there. And he's just representing a new breed of racists. All I need is the sheet and the hood, but we've traded that for a suit and a tie and a position in the Senate. or the House of Representatives, whichever. But at the end of the day, I need somebody that is bold enough to stand up for the people, of the people, for the people, by the people. What are we doing? Because listen, this ain't for, of, or by me. And it ain't for, of, or by any black body in this country. Because this is foolishness. Master liars and thieves. And it's so obvious. Kim, it's as obvious as the nose on your face. That's why, listen, they got ex-QAnoners now that are like QAnon Anonymous. QAnon Anonymous. And these people are coming out talking about how they were duped, how they were deceived, how they really believed, how they really thought all of this stuff was so, and da 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 da. But these ain't nothing but liars and thieves. And you'd rather believe a liar and a thief than somebody telling you the truth. Kool-Aid, just Kool-Aid with so much sugar in it. Y'all just drunk with the Kool-Aid. And then you want to come back and I'm gonna tell you what, when I have to be really honest, because at the end of the day, come on, Rebel, you know I'm telling the truth. At the end of the day, and I'm sitting there looking at them, and come on, Kim, it's funny, it's really funny. When you get done with it, I can't really feel sorry for them. But this is the thing I want you to understand about the base that these liars and thieves play to. They're slow. They're uneducated, many of them. They're gullible. They are not the brightest bulb in the pack many times. Now, some of the people that are backing this stuff are geniuses, and I look at them extra cross-eyed, like, what's wrong with you? But many of these people, they really, I'm not surprised in the least bit that they believe this stuff, because you could tell them anything and they would believe it, because they just do not have the mental capacity to think any other way. Whatever you tell them, baby, it's that hate all day long, Kim. It's that hate has them so confused, so twisted, so open. Anything that speaks to listen, I'm trying to tell you, the word did say it. The word said it, dog Lex. And I look at it and I'm like, I can't really feel sorry for you, because that lie was so brazen, bold, and obvious. I can't even believe you believed it. Usually a lie, to be believable, has to have some thread or strain of truth in it, some element of truth in it. But these lies are such bold, preposterous lies. It ain't even no truth in it. It's just a made up fairy tale. Pull it out of the sky, pull it out of your ear, pull it out of your tail kind of lie. That doesn't even make sense. And the people believe it. The people believe it. And I'm looking at the people like, what is wrong with you? So as they're having the QAnon Anonymous, oh, and I believe in Alcohol Anonymous. I believe in AA. I believe in NA, Narcotics Anonymous. I believe in all the anonymous platforms for people that are working towards their sobriety and their healing. But I just have a hard time with the QAnon Anonymous. I have a hard time with that one. But I'm gonna try to embrace you, because maybe you are genuinely and sincerely trying to be healed, trying to get right. But you know how we do this. This is all I can give for that one. That's my little fiddle. That's my little fiddle. Oh, because I don't know if I'm buying what you're selling, because it's hard for me to believe that you literally believed all those lies. But here we got Josh Hawley walking down this same path. And we have the television networks, mind you. Now, there's a battle going on right now, whether y'all believe it or not, whether you're aware of it or not. They're trying to make it so that these lies, that the election was stolen, they're trying to make it so that this can stop being repeated on the television as if it's fact when they know for sure, both in the courts and every other way, that is a bald, bold-faced lie. So television stations are now in a fight, in a struggle. And then it's sad, you would think that it would be a no-brainer. But the fight is going on right now because they're trying to make it so that some of these stations that are broadcasting, as well as many of these individuals, like the Pillow Man. If y'all buying my pillow, I just don't know. Because it ain't my pillow. It ain't your pillow. It ain't our pillow. It ain't nobody's pillow but Trump's pillow. That man is out of his mind. So when you have these individuals that continue, now, guess what? My pillow done got sued. Rudy done got sued. Old girl attorney done got sued. The news station done got sued. Them folk done stopped saying. But as for these other folk that are still out here running around repeating this lie, Josh Hawley, it needs to be addressed so that we ban this whole element of lying that continues to go on. So the question begs, at what level do we have censorship in the media and the right to say, and where do we start infringing on people's rights? No more underhanded attacks, Joel. No more underhanded attacks. We've had enough. At what level do we stop all of this? Because then on the flip side, TikTok has banned that vegan teacher because people are now saying she's forcing them to be vegan, and she's saying either you have to be vegan my way or no way, and they have banned her and her 1.7 million followers because she's that vegan. And she's having to defend her vegan teaching. So at the end of the day, where does it stop? In the media and in the press. The question begs, and it just keeps going on and on and on and on. Now, you're going to ban that vegan teacher and her 1.7 followers for teaching how to be a vegan, and people claiming she's forcing them. How can you force somebody to do something over the internet? Can you help me understand that? It ain't like she's showing up and got hit men and hit women going to these people's homes. She calls herself the Holocaust teacher. Is that what it? Listen, at the end of the day, I'm trying to understand how she's forcing people over the internet, Joel. How is she forcing people over the internet? Now, if she's got some rhetoric because of what she calls the animal, now, yeah, the animal. Now that's what it is. She is extremely. And can I come here for a second? I might as well come on. You open the door, Joel, so I'm going to come in and sit down. I'm going to put my feet. Is there a stupid BTD mom? Is there a stupid anonymous? She calls it the animal holocaust for people that are eating animals. Now, this is what I want to say about that. I wish people cared about black bodies getting killed like they care about animals getting killed. How about that? How about that? I wish black bodies were just as important, that people would put their life and limb on the line over some daggum animals and who's eating meat. Who cares? We dying in record numbers, whether it is a matter of the pandemic taking us out, or if it's law enforcement taking us out, or if it's poor health care and lack thereof that's taking us out. At the end of the day, how about people caring about black bodies dying at record numbers? How about people caring about black bodies being mutilated in the streets? How about people care about that? But no, you worried about some animals or turtles. Sea turtles that got too cold in the water. And I saw, it's disgraceful. And I saw A 86-year-old black woman in Texas, they had that run this morning while we slumbered, slept, and slobbered. And I wasn't even going to bring that story up. They care more about animals, but they don't care about black lives. And it's crazy, Kim. It's just as crazy as all get out. And so at the end of the day, since we're here, 86-year-old black woman, she looked like somebody's little church mother, froze to death. They found her frozen to death in her apartment in Texas. And then people had come in and looted her house after she died and left her little frozen body there. Yeah, rebel. Yeah, rebel. Yeah. Joel, it ain't right. It ain't right. It ain't right. But we can find space heaters for sea turtles. We can find a woman with 1.7 million followers. And at the end of the day, that's the question. That is the $64,000 question, Joel. Where's the humanity? We can have people come up with billions, not millions, but billions with the B, billions of dollars to invest in a utility that they know is getting ready to rape these people of their finance and send folk to the poorhouse and to the outhouse and to the streets and the byways. But as long as my billions are making more billions and trillions, this is my opportunity to move past a billionaire and be a trillionaire. Who cares about the people that are dying? 86-year-old little mother. And I looked at that picture and I had to drop some tears because she looked like she could have been your grandma, my grandma, anybody's grandma, frozen to death in a land flowing with milk and honey. Y'all ain't buying what I'm selling. Get your coffee cups out. No cream, no sugar. We take our coffee black because I'm telling it like it T-I-Z-T-is. That's the work of the old nasty devil. Could it be? Yes, Kim, it's sad. Could it be the devil? It ain't nothing but that old slimy devil. So at the end of the day, these are the things that need to make us stop, look, listen, pay attention, and act. We need action because these are the types of dastardly things that we need to stop. Point blank blunt. It needs to stop. And we are the people that can do it. Now, as I move away from I got to talk, pay attention, because the joy who was put in by the last administration over the post office, while we slumbered, slept, and slobbered, and I need to wake you up. I need you to be woke. I need you to be woke. He's continuing to dismantle the post office. So you all need to wake up, be woke on this. One of the oldest services of the U.S. government is under straight frontal attack. My dad, his whole career was with the post office, family members. Post office has been one of the earliest to bring Black folks in and give them a decent wage. And here we see it being completely dismantled, and the joy cannot just be removed by Biden. This bears watching. So if you're wondering what the whole push is, privatization. Anytime you have services that become privatized, you have what is spread over a large, say if it's federal or whoever, entity going into now the pockets of an individual or a small handful of individuals. All of that money is going to be going to companies, corporations, and individuals. We need to pay attention because the joy is still actively dismantling the post office. Not to be overlooked, that a lot of the voting rights push that's going on right now, one way or the other, pro or con, is to stop mail-in voting. Now, y'all remember he did that dastardly deed right at the time of the voting, and it was so obvious, as obvious as the nose on our faces, that people started crying foul when he started just up and carrying equipment up out of there so that the stuff could not be delivered and or not be delivered on time. Now, rest assured, as we're coming into this next push, and it looks as though the Democrats are going to be able to push their agenda with voting rights to stop suppression, to eliminate some of these different dastardly things that have gone on to prevent brown and black bodies from being able to vote or making it very difficult for them to vote. This man has not stopped his process of dismantling the post office. Now, should the Democrats be successful in securing resolution number 40 and able to move this forward, I want you to understand that if he's dismantled the post office, how are the mail-in ballots going to get there? And at what cost to the people? So stay woke, folks, stay woke. It hasn't stopped. And while we slumbered, slept, and slobbered, there was a sizable article about how he is continuing to dismantle the post office, and we need to pay attention. Now, that brings me to where I want to kind of go to segue into my conversation, and we're going to get ready to wrap this up. I want us to always be aware, and that is, I hope, some of what this podcast does for some of you, maybe not all. Many of you already have the information, as my nephew would say, the deets. That stands for the details. You already have the deets of what's going on in our world today. But I just want to make sure that some of these things that need to be talked about and need to be addressed are brought to your radar if it hasn't been. And these are some things I said, we may not be able to, because of COVID, have that face-to-face, one-on-one, show up at meetings, this and that and the other. But a lot of this is on the internet. You can watch on the internet. You can watch on your TV. Your fingers can still do the walking and your mouth can do the talking to say, hey, I'm not for that. We need to, hey, hold up, swole up. We have the ability and capacity to do some of that. Mail delivery is already slow because automatic machines have been taken out of the post office. And I know you know BTD, Mom, because that was your livelihood and your life career as well. And so you know intricately how that process works and how impacting the removal of those machines are to the delivery of the mail. And that's what they want to do, is dismantle it. So at the end of the day, we need to be having some conversation. We need to be raising some cane. We need to be raising some sand, cane, sand, whichever you're doing. You need to get on it so that we can actually stop the steal, like they tried to say we were doing, by providing these means for people to be able to vote. We need to ensure that they continue to have this means to be able to vote in a very legitimate way. And so wake up, wake up, wake up. If you sleep on that, the joy, and it ain't no joy in the joy, but the joy is still dismantling the post office. Pay attention, stay woke. Now, as I move back into what I want to talk about today, I'm going to bring up some last stories and then we're going to segue on over. The first story that I really want to address piggybacks off of what we talked about on yesterday. And if you remember on yesterday, we began to talk about how President Biden has basically said, y'all want me to eradicate student debt? Ain't gonna do it. Ain't gonna happen. I will concede the $10,000. Now, even as we slumbered, slept, and slobbered, beautiful article came out today because this has raised bipartisan support where people everywhere are hollering and screaming, hold up, hold up, hold up. We were talking about eradicating this debt for these young people getting started, or old people. Everybody that's got student loan debt isn't necessarily young, because old people are going back to school too. But at the end of the day, if you want to be educated, you can come up the ranks and you don't have to pay this tremendous amount of debt to be educated. And I think it's a sin and a shame, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, that we as a country, as progressive as we purport to be, but we're really not. We're not as progressive as we say we are. Why do we have to pay such an astronomical amount of money to get good quality education? That needs to be looked at. But let's keep moving. So now we've got NAACP. I mean, really, they listed off so many organizations, so many agencies, so many people that are crying foul and saying, hey, $10,000 is not going to cut it. $10,000 was not what was put out there, and $10,000 is basically going to be unacceptable. So now we're at least toying with an idea of around $50,000. So now, as this pressure continues to mount, and President Biden trying to bystep it is saying, I want the Attorney General to look at it and see, can I legally, by executive order, eradicate this debt in this way? Now, you know, my sentiment on that, you're calling in the AG because you really don't want to do it, and we're just stalling for time, and we're trying to find another way to do it. Because y'all been using them executive orders for everything else. You've been using these executive orders for everything that you want to use them for. But then when it comes up to something that you really don't want to do, then it needs to be reviewed. When they do these reviews and we're going to do a study and we're going to convene a council to discuss whether or not, I say that is a bunch of malarkey. You basically are stalling, dragging your feet on something that you don't want to do. Stop convening. Stop having people do a study on it. Right. He can do it. It's an executive order. All of this, you want to have somebody else review. Sit down. That's what I got to say about that. Sit down and either sign the order or not. But I tell you what, if you're not going to do it, there's a whole lot of eyes that's going to be on you, and there's a whole lot of votes that you're going to be. So yeah, let's drag it out. It's almost like, y'all, come on here. It's the same scenario that we see with these police brutality cases. The case gets held over and bound over for a year or two. And then out of the public eye, once all of the furor about it has died down, and once everybody has scrutinized it and reviewed it, then they quietly get acquitted and nothing happens. It's the same daggone procedure. This is what I want to say to the American public. How many times are we going to be duped with this loop-to-loop before we wake up and say, no, we don't need a feasibility study. No, we don't need the AG. No, y'all playing games with our lives and our money and our livelihoods and our generational wealth. You're playing with us. And how long do we let them keep doing this same little song and dance? Like, listen, as soon as they start the process, you already know how it's going to end. And so it's a take your eye off the ball, get you caught up with something else, while quietly and secretly over here to the side, we're continuing to move forward, but not in the direction that y'all want to move. And then by the time you wake up and realize what's going on, we've already done what we want to do, which is not what you wanted. But oh well, it's done now. So I want us to wake up to this little scheme and skit and scam that they keep running on us and just say no. Because at the end of the day, when we start looking at it, we really have to identify, again, like I said on yesterday, anybody that understands the system of debt and how it's working, you can readily and easily identify this is nothing more than modern day sharecropping to our children. And who does it impact the most? Brown and black children the most. So at the end of the day, we need to look at it. So now they're having some discussion amongst the agencies and the organizations. So who will qualify for it? one one idea is that it'll be if you get a certain level of degree. Well, why would you penalize me for a degree? This is my opinion. If you come up with some of the higher level degrees, you won't be eligible. Well, I don't necessarily go for that, because if I go to school and I attain a higher level of education, and so that's one school of thought for certain level degrees and up. For certain income levels, that will be a factor. That's something that they're debating and talking about. Or when the individuals get into the workforce, depending on what level their salaries are directly, whether or not they have to pay it back. I mean, at the end of the day, they've got several different avenues of what these different ideas they're putting out there as to who, excuse me, will be allowed to not be given this $50,000 if they get it to that amount or not, or even the 10,000 for that matter, whatever amount of forgiveness the people get. Will it be given to low income and middle income only? All these are arguments and debates that are out there right now. But at the end of the day, definitely there is a movement galvanized against President Biden and this $10,000 figure. And the movement is saying we need a wide sweeping amount of debt relief for student loans. I'm an advocate for it. You know, let everybody be persuaded in his own mind. Y'all get out there and do the research, but I want this debt off the necks of our children, because I know some young people right now that have gone to school, finished their education, have done extremely well, but they are saddled with an exorbitant amount of debt, and they need to be released from that debt. That's my opinion. Which brings me to the point of, how did we get today? My word of the day is education. How did we get here with education? How did we get? Student debt is evil. It is, Joel. It's evil all day long. To penalize me for learning knowledge, to penalize me for getting a greater education and expertise, more tools to work with, to penalize me with debt. Now, we already know where a lot of that goes back to. A lot of that goes back to a lot of the idea Black folk can't afford it. If you can't afford it, you sure can't get it. And if we price it at such a level that you can't afford it, and any minority group, whoever it is we want to keep out, whenever people are, it's desirous to keep people out, money becomes a factor. Money becomes a weapon. They weaponize it with financial elements. So either you get blocked out completely because you don't have the money, or something like debt, where you can get that student loan and take on debt to be able to have the finance to do it. We'll let you come in, but you're going to be settled down with this tremendous amount of debt. It is evil all day long, Joel. So I want to deal with that, because education, we need to look at it as a whole. Now, don't get twisted, because I want children, young people, old folks, I want you to go to school. But I want us to look at the history of education, public education in the United States. I'm not going to go a whole lot of other places, but here in the United States, how did we get to a system of public education? Because that wasn't the way it was originally. There was not a public education system. But I want us to be privy and understand a few things as to why education came into existence. And it all wasn't for good. So I need you to hear me, because you all remember back in the day, there were a lot of people of all hues and of all colors that they only got to a certain grade and then they dropped out of school because they had to go to work. And so education was not something that was for the masses, and it wasn't something that was expected and intended for everybody to get. You had more of your high society and high life that were the highborn and educated, and they were expected to be educated. Oftentimes went and were educated abroad. The higher you were in status, the more what's the word I want to use? The more wealth you had, then you were expected to go abroad, not just here in the United States, but you were expected to go abroad and study abroad, because then you become a full, well-balanced, exposed individual worldwide, wisely, and you have the ability to be put in positions because you have the know-how, you have the worldly. Thank you. You have that, and you now can take on these CEOs and upper echelon positions because you know what you're doing. Now, as time went on, we began to identify, and then I want you to hear me real good, because there were a lot of companies and organizations on a smaller level that were operating where entrepreneurship was not foreign to a lot of people. And they may not have had the education of the highborn. Good morning, King Coogee. Good to see you. You may not have had the education of the highborn, but you had mother wit, you had intelligence, you had the ability to be a genius at math or whatever it was and could figure things out, problem solving. You had all of those tools and techniques. So you may not have had the education, but you had the ability to maneuver and manipulate and grow something big. Well, as that became more and more of a problem, and then you had the parochial school that began to come because Catholics began to come in. And now, in case you didn't know, let me just drop some knowledge on you here. Catholics were not favorable back in the day. And I want you to be clear on that. So there was a time, y'all remember Kennedy was the first Catholic president. Why? Because Catholicism was not favorable in this country. So the Catholic schools had their own school system that they were providing to their children and parishioners. And even back to the day, I'm ready for war, King Coogee. I'm ready for war. So we had that whole element back in the day where they were looked at as they're producing criminals and all of the negative element. Da, 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 da. Unfortunately, they were carrying that stigma at the time. Then we come to a point where we begin to identify that people that had knowledge and know-how and ability, but not education, were pushing up and doing quite well. Well, if I am the haves and the have-nots are coming after me, I got to figure out a way to shut this down. Now, let me tell you, because I want you to hear me good. So good morning, Michelle. Good to see you. One of the elements that they understood was that when people do not have a mindset of less than, when people do not have a mindset of I'm a slave, when people do not have a mindset because they are educated and they're able to think for themselves, we cannot control them. Now, that's just straight up. So you had people like Horace Mann and John Dewey. Y'all remember the Dewey Decimal System? Y'all had to learn in the library. You have people like Horace Mann and John Dewey who come up with this idea and begin to push public schools for morality, for education, but largely for tractability. We want to be able to track and guide and push these people in the directions that we want them to go. Y'all ain't buying what I'm selling, but it's the truth. Go back. Yeah, the Dewey Decimal System. Joe, we have what's called the Dewey Decimal System. That's our library system over here in the United States. They teach it to you early on in elementary school. You got to learn the Dewey Decimal System. So at the end of the day, we find education of the public masses a means by which to achieve and accomplish this. So now, hear me when I say this. I want y'all to understand that we want to be able to corral people like cattle and steer them in directions that we want them to be steerable. So now, instead of a bunch of people that are entrepreneurs and think independently and individually and critically on their own without education, let me teach you how to think. Let me teach you what to learn. Let me teach you what books to read. Required reading, y'all remember that? Let me teach you what math and when to learn it. Because listen, at the end of the day, I want you to hear this. People were doing this without being taught in a public education system. A lot of people were just gifted with these abilities and they flourished. But now, once we make a public school system and demand that everybody learn by this same prescribed manner, and that's when the Catholic school completely broke away and became completely parochial, because you're not going to bring that to us. And additionally, while they tried to talk about the Catholics in a negative way, they were doing the same thing because they had prayer in school. For everybody that really wants to fuss about they took prayer out of school. Well, some of this was a battle that was going on from the very beginning of the battle of the faith between Catholicism and Protestantism. And so they were still praying. They just weren't doing the Catholic prayers. They started reading out of King James instead of reading the Catholic Bible. But they were still doing the same things, even though they were trying to say separation of church and state and separation of this and that and the other. But it was just there's always a smooth operator trying to come in the back door and push their agenda. So at the end of the day, we got this idea. If we're going to control these people in mass, we need to educate them in mass. Hear what I'm saying. And stop and think about it. Let's go to today in 2021. What is it that a lot of the QAnoners in QAnon Anonymous are saying? We had no idea that all of this was going on. We had no, because they didn't teach it to them in school. They conveniently left out the oppression of slavery. They conveniently, even after it was over. Do you see it in the textbooks? No. Do you see it accurately depicted? No. Just like those old driving lesson school cars with the 2 steering wheels, they let you drive, but they got the wheel too. And that is a perfect analogy, King Kuji. That is exactly what they wanted to do with public education. We're going to put a wheel in your hand, but be it known, whether you do or not, I'm controlling this car on my side. That is the analogy of the day. That was perfect. Absolutely perfect. So as we get into the reality of it, this is what I want us to understand. As we get into the reality of it, education was not intended to help you. Education in the public education system was intended to corral you like cattle. So we tell you what to learn. We tell you when to learn it. No, that's not 3rd grade level. This is 3rd grade level. No, that's not 5th grade level. This is 5th grade level. And for those that just exceeded beyond that and you couldn't contain them, we want to call them child prodigies. But there were a whole lot of people that were child prodigies back in the day, because all of this level that we put in oh yeah, the public education system, it's a sham. It's a sham in Australia too. Well, listen, it's a sham here. So this is what I want to wake us up to, because I need you to have some understanding for everybody. And please, I'm gonna say this again as a disclaimer. I'm an advocate of education. I just want you to pay attention to how you're being educated and what you put all of your eggs in the basket with education. I'm here to tell you, you can educate yourself as well. And you need to educate yourself. You need to educate your children. You need to educate your family above and beyond what they're putting in the school system. And as I said, because of what they omit in the system is a lot of what keeps us in the poverty, a lot of what keeps us in the state, the status in life. A lot of it holds you just where you are, and that's by design. Are you hearing me? That is by design. So as we come into this place where now, if I want to get a certain level of education, that's what's so dastardly about this debt. If I want to get a certain level of education, I have to pay a certain amount of money to get that certain level of education. And if you are not a person and a family of means that can pay that out of pocket, then you are going to have to get debt. So at the end of the, come on, especially when they try to teach kids how to do math a new way for no reason, listen, I taught SAT, ACT, PSAT in the school system. And that system of math that they came up with makes no sense. And so what I would do, I would teach the math the way of the new math. And because I got to follow what y'all gave me in the classroom. But then after I had taught that new math, I would go back and I would say it this way. For those of you that would like to learn another way, I'm going to show you old school math. And I would go to the board and I would put that old school math on the board. And those kids that were struggling would pick up the old system just like that because it made sense. And so I didn't have to go through this step. And then I got to go to that step. And then I got to go back around to this step. And then I got to do that step. And don't solve, you got to estimate first. Why do I need to estimate? Baby, solve the problem. So as we get, yes, the biggest method of control is the introduction of toxic reading materials made mandatory. As we come into, and this is the thing, Joel, when we can get to the point where, can I be a critical thinker enough to determine, is this good for me? My dad said it's like eating fish. You get the meat, throw away the bones. Is this good for me? Is it not good for me? Do I just swallow it hook, line, and sinker, bones and all because you told me to? Or do I have the critical thinking skills that allow me to process, do I embrace this? Do I not embrace it? Not at all. You taught your kids the old way and then told them to write the new way for the teacher. I know you're right, Michelle, because at the end of the day, these kids were struggling. And I was taking kids in classes and they were struggling to no end with this new math, trying to work their problems. And I would show them the new way because I was in the school system. I had to do it the school's way. But you can't stop me from showing them old school math after I've taught them the new way. And fortunate for those that were able to grasp it and pick it up just like that. Just like that. Now, can I be truthful? Because I believe outside of the public school system, if you were to go into some of the private schools, because pay attention to this, the same time Horace Mann and John Dewey came up with the public school system and crammed it down our throats, private schools popped up just like that too. I told you the parochial school for the Catholic, they totally separated off. But then private schools start popping up. Why? Because people of means and of education were not going to send their children through those levels of education because they knew it was inferior, and it was designed to be inferior because it was designed to create workers, not management. I need you to hear me when I'm saying that. It was designed. Matter of fact, if you want a management school, even in what management courses, even in today's times, you got to pay extra money to get management courses. If you plan to go into management, you're not going to get that in regular education. But listen, what we're calling management courses in public school is regular courses for people in private school. Hear me when I'm talking. I'm going to say it one more time, once more and again, for the people in the back that didn't hear me. What we are calling management courses and having to pay for in public school are basic courses in private school. Because they intend from day one that my child that's in private school is going to be the leader, not the follower. And they, by design, plan that you that are in public school are going to be the followers and not the leader. Come on here. Since your grandmother was living with you, her retirement money and sent us to Christian private school. She was from Arkansas and saw the difference. I all day long, I believe that, Michelle. I believe it. And some people, and that was but let's look at what your grandmother had to do. She had to come up with the means and the money to be able to put you in that school. What did I say earlier? Whenever they want to make a difference and a separation, money comes into play. because money separates the haves and the have-nots. And if you don't have it, you can't get that level of education unless you come up with the money. Therein comes at the college level student debt, which needs to be eradicated. It is a cash scheme. Unfortunately, Joel, it is a cash scheme. And so at the end of the day, we've got to pay attention to what's really going on. Now, again, I'm going to say it again. I'm not against education. Get that education. But as you're getting that education, do not be ignorant to the fact that depending on what kind of education you are getting, it's already designed to put you at a certain station in life. That's why I'm saying to you, like my dad told me, he said, listen, at the end of the day, whether you go to school or not, whether you go to college or not, there's no excuse to not being educated, because when you go to school, they're going to tell you, read a book. When they get ready to test you, they're going to test you on the book you read. And then when all is said and done, they're going to come back and ask you to write an explanation and a treatise on what you understood that book to mean and say to you. You can do that yourself. You can read a book. You can go to the library. We've got the internet and Google now. Some of you that say, I don't like to read, they got books on audio. Let me tell you one thing that is almost always consistent about people in top levels of management and upper echelon of business and management of business. Many of them have a standard of reading at least one book a month, because they understand that reading is fundamental. If you're going to be positioned in a place where you need to have broad knowledge and the ability to lead, you've got to continue to read. And that's what our downfall is. Some of y'all ain't touched a book since you came out of school. Some of you haven't touched a book since you came out of high school. Some of you haven't touched a book since you came out of college. But if you want to continue to grow and expand your knowledge base, just like the upper echelon understands, they've got to read a book a month to stay fresh in their field. I need you to pick up a book. I need you to download an audio. Y'all start educating yourselves, because if you're satisfied with the educational system that they provide you publicly and what they provide you in this system, you will have a difficult time becoming the leader, because what you have been given was designed to keep you the follower. Am I talking to anybody? You have got to read. Am I talking to anybody? The difference, when I crossed over to public school in the 9th grade, I had enough credits to graduate high school. I tutored and took LPN classes to make up my curriculums because my mom didn't want me to graduate early. And I understand that idea of your mom. I wish, this is just my opinion, I wish she would have released you to come on out early. I understand the socializing skills. But listen, this is the thing that we recognize. And you're not the first person, Michelle. The difference between what you got in private school and when you got to public school, the difference is night and day. And you are a testament to that in what you just said. The difference when you go from private school to public school and you're sitting there in the 9th grade and they're doing 3rd grade work. What you did in 3rd grade. And I'm telling you what I know. The difference. I got to college, and people, now I was in public school, but I was blessed to be in a predominantly white public school that had money. So I had a relatively good education in comparison to many of my peers. And when I got to college with my peers, and they couldn't tell the difference between a noun and a verb, or barely, God forbid, you start talking about a gerund. What's a gerund? I can, as one of my classmates kept saying, a garand. What is a garand? I said, baby, it's gerund. Every day I had to, baby, it's gerund. It's not a garand, it's a gerund. What is a gerund? I've never seen or heard this word in my whole entire life, but we covered it in junior high. And in some instances, of truth be told, we talked about gerunds with Ms. Lindblad, which was in 5th grade. And you all are in college and you've never ever heard this word in your whole life, but you went all the way through the public school system. I'm not understanding, because you weren't designed or intended in many instances to go to any higher level. And this is what I want to tell you. You got children in the public school system. I'm not saying yank them out. You don't have the money, but by all means, do not limit and restrict their education to what they're getting there in that public school system. Give them some additional required reading. Give them some additional, because at the end of the day, give them some things. Start exposing them to management concept. Start exposing them to business. Come on, Joel. Let them thrive. Let them thrive. Get them. Oh, yeah, you know the latest dance. You know the latest rap. I don't have a problem with that. But if your brain can remember a 10-minute rap, your brain can remember 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent. I don't know nothing about that. That's too hard. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free. Give them something that's going to last. Give them something that gives them some history. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union. Give them something. I can still, 5th grade, the helping verbs. Am, is, was, were, are, being, been, have, has, had, do, does, did, shall, will, should, would, must, may, might, can, could. That's 5th grade. 5th grade. Am, is, was, were, are, being, been, have, has, had, do, does, did, shall, will, should, would, must, may, might, can, could. I had a college professor tell me I can't even say the helping verbs. I can't say the preposition. So this is where we want to look at. Yeah, school is not the only place to educate your child. Just make sure they know what they're teaching in the building too, because there's a whole lot of stuff going on that yeah, I'm with you right there. I'm with you right there, Coogee. Know what they're teaching your child. At the end of the day, I'm here to talk about education because, again, I'm totally opposed to this whole devilish idea. I'm with you, Joel. It's evil. This whole devilish idea of debt being saddled on our babies like sharecropping. I'm opposed to it. I'm opposed to it. I'm opposed to it. My friends kind of laughed at me because I got up, paid, and took my kids 20 minutes away to a predominantly white neighborhood. I knew I was doing the right thing when all of our kids were playing and my kids played the teacher and read the books to them. Plus, my sister taught them and gave them books to read by 3 years old. Oh my God, Michelle, you said a huge one there. Because I'm going to tell you what, in my household with my nephews, one thing that I will tell you, as soon as they came into this world, they got books. Even before they could read, they got books. And when you got down to it, they had records that they could listen to. My nephew, my second oldest nephew, taught himself to read. That baby was reading before, I'm telling you, he was barely walking good, and the boy could read a book. Taught himself. Why? Because he watched Sesame Street. And what would they do on Sesame Street? B makes this sound, buh, 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 buh. G makes this sound, guh, 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 guh. And before you know it, that child was reading. You learned your times table from, listen, I'm telling you. And we had Schoolhouse Rock, Joel. I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. We had all kinds of things. And I went back just a few years ago because my students in school were struggling so hard. I went back and bought every Schoolhouse Rock that ever was. Because at the end of the day, where they were struggling, we saw that on Saturday morning TV. That's what we saw for cartoons. Schoolhouse Rock. Conjunction, junction, what's your function? Hooking up words. Come on. Before we ever got to school. But y'all's babies out there popping locking. And that's okay. Let them pop and lock. But can they learn how to read? Can they get educated? Can they be the leaders and not the followers? And many of them are. Many of them are. But then when you get into the corporate arena and when you get into the places where you have to have more than just mother wit and you do need to have some basics of understanding, that's where we fall down because there's no foundation. Education. And listen, y'all, if you will not help educate, and I'm not talking about because of coronavirus, if you will not help educate your children at home, you're doing your children a disservice. My father would take us on trips, and even in our trips, the trips were educational. That's how I learned the order of the planets. We went to the planetarium. And I heard her, my very educated mother just served us 9 pizza pies. If you pay attention to that, that's the first letter of every planet in the orbit in order. There are so many things that you can do and so many ways that you can help educate. Not only your children, but some of us need to go back. What did I tell you? The people that are really making a difference and the people that are really sitting at the top level in the boardrooms, they understand. Read a new book, not the same book over and over again. And listen to all of my Christian brothers and sisters. There's more to read than the Bible. There's more to read than Genesis to Revelations. I need you to get more in your head than just church. Barbara, I love you, girl. I need you to get more in your head than just scriptures. I need you to move into a place where we can lead. And if we're going to lead, we can't just haphazardly do it. And yes, we are talented, but I need you to have knowledge. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge because we don't know. What we don't know is killing us. But listen, there's no reason to not know it because it's in a book. You can get a book and you can read it. Even if you can't go to school, buy the book and read the book, download it, let the book read to you. But there's no reason for you not to know. Not in this age and time. Education and knowledge is open to everybody. You just got to reach for it. You just got to reach for it. Education is going to be key to making the difference. And I'm not just talking about, again, hear me, I have nothing wrong. I have nothing against the idea of going to public school. I have nothing against with going to public college. But I also want you to understand this. You're going to have to go above and beyond and get something extra. Extra. Read all about it. Wanted, young men, single and free. Oh, I need you to get the extra. Experience, somebody rescue me. I need you to get the extra. Because education is going to position us. It's going to allow us to know how to organize, when to organize, where to organize. It's going to give us the foundation that we need to be able to make a good, solid foundation that will not crumble, and then begin to build on top of it. But don't reinvent the wheel. There's information already out there. Learn it. If they've already figured it out, put it in a book. Go get the book and read the book, and then redo what they taught you how to do. Because I'm telling you, that's all the people in the boardrooms are doing. They're practicing what they learned out of those books. It's their practicum. Do you hear me? And we can have that same practicum amongst ourselves. Am I talking to anybody? Because I want to see us come into the fullness of this place. Not just some of us, but all of us. I want the people to come out of bondage into a marvelous light. I need you to educate. Come on. So at the end of the day, reading is fundamental. Education is fundamental. And there's nothing wrong with going back. If there's something that you don't understand, find some people, make a group, make some ensembles. Listen, iron sharpens iron. Don't get with a bunch of dumb folks. And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm really not trying to be mean. And I'm not trying to be egotistical or any of that and make differences and hierarchy. But listen, I love everybody. But when I really want to get stimulated, I'm not going where the dumb folks are. Not when I want to get stimulated. I'm not going where the dumb folks are. If I want to be stimulated, I find somebody that knows more than I know so that I can reach up and pull up. I have no problem with, will you mentor me? And I will say every field that I've ever gone into, and I've had several, the first thing I do is seek out a mentor. Somebody that's excellent at it, somebody that has a full understanding of it. And then I align myself with that individual and I try to learn everything that they will teach me. And I'm teachable. I don't come in acting like I know. I come, even if there's something I do know, I will still act like I don't know it because you may be able to teach it to me in a better and a brighter way that makes more sense than the way that I know. So let me shut up and listen because I'm the student here. I'm here to learn. You are my mentor. I'm the protege. But when I walk out the door, I want to be the very best and have learned from the best because I'm always about educating. I'm always about being educated. I'm always about reading another book, reading another concept, watching another video. Because I recognize education is key. And I'm going to say it again. It's not from Genesis to Revelation. Oh, yeah, I can do Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, Romans, 1st and 2nd Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, 1st and 2nd Timothy, Titus, Philemon, Hebrew, James, 1st and 2nd Peter, 1st John, 2nd John, 3rd John. Just because you can quote all the books of the Bible doesn't mean nothing. And just because you can quote the books of the Bible and the scriptures doesn't make you intelligent. I've seen some of the dumbest people mount the pulpit and preach some of the most stupid words I've ever heard preached in all my life. And these are pastors and bishops. But you're uneducated. So at the end of the day, education is key. Education is key. Education is key. Listen, I hope y'all got coffee cups out today. No cream, no sugar. Because I am taking this coffee strong and black. Because I'm telling you like it T-I-Z-T-is. Education is still a means of deliverance. And this is the last thought I'm going to leave because I done messed around and went over my time, y'all. Out here in the great state of California. I done messed around, went over my time. But this is the last thing I want to say. Especially to Black bodies and people of color. Why do you think, why do you think it was so important to slave owners that their slaves be uneducated? Why? Why do you? Reading could cost you your life. Learning could cost you your. Being an educated slave was a good way to get killed. Good morning, Nathan Lamont. Good to see you. Why do you think that was the case? Because they understood the power, the freedom, the liberty that's in education. And they didn't want you to have it. Because if you had it, you became a formidable opponent. They knew the power of it, Michelle. They knew the power of it. You became a formidable opponent once you became educated. Good night, Joel. Thank you so much for joining me. I know it's late there in Australia. Thank you so much for joining me. I love you, man. I love you. Good night. I want us to pay attention. And if it was that important, which is why they saddle you with so much debt to get it, and then they made it a sharecropping scenario. If you get it, you'll always be owing to it and paying it off. You'll never get completely out of debt. I want you to see the handwriting on the wall, because it's been there for centuries. And I hope y'all wake up to it today. Well, there you have it. I love y'all. Thanks to everybody that came in today. I hope you got something out of what I said. But I'm so serious about education. I'm so serious about why we need to hold President Biden's feet to the fire on this issue of debt forgiveness, and why we need to, above and beyond that, become more educated. I'm still learning. I won't ever stop learning. I won't ever stop. I'm going to always be looking at something new. I'm always going to be listening to something new. I'm going to always be reading something new, because I want to lead as a good leader. That requires knowledge, and that requires education. You all are leaders too. Every last one of you under the sound of my voice. You're leaders too. That's why you're drawn to this broadcast, because you're leaders too. I need you to wake up and lead, and I need you to have continuing education. All of us, our whole life should be nothing but continuing education. I love y'all. Let's get to it. Let's get to it. Let's get to it, because it's time to make that change. And we are the people that can do it. Peace for your journey.